This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
1 o'clock on AM and FM around the UK, on digital and around the world online. I'm Rod Sharp. Well, let's go to Los Angeles now, where we're joined by Peter Bowes. And Peter, you have an old friend with you.
I have indeed, yes. Good morning, Rod. And that old friend is Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis is a man of many parts and wearing many hats. And he is a commentator on politics and pop culture. He is a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post. He's a television producer, a Beatles guru, a Beatles historian, and a humorist as well. And Martin, we chatted a few months ago about your work with the legendary Pete Seeger and his new record, Forever Young. And that was to mark the 50th anniversary of Amnesty International. You've also been involved in another project to raise funds for Amnesty.
Hello, Martin. It's Rod here.
Hello, Rod.
Let's turn to one of your projects now, because 50 years of Amnesty International, and you've been actually working on an anniversary DVD of the Secret Policeman's Ball.
Yes, really, I have. It started, Amnesty's Secret Policeman's Ball show started back in 1976, would you believe? John Cleese and the Pythons were the main folks behind it, and I was lucky enough to be one of the producers and co-creators back in those early days. And they decided to have another show this year, part of the 50th anniversary of Amnesty, and for the first time ever they held the Secret Policeman's Ball outside of Britain. They held it in New York, and they gave me a call and asked if I would lend a hand, and even promised me a lovely title, Producer Emeritus, which does make me sound about 98 years old. Yes. But I think it was just a nod to the fact that I'd been one of the people who started it. And they asked me if I could lend a hand, and they'd already got a wonderful cast. I mean, they've got Eddie Izzard and Russell Brand and John Stewart, Ben Stiller, the top of the British and American comedians of the present day. But they asked if I could lend a hand in any way, and one of the things I thought was perhaps I could get the Pythons, who had obviously been the starters in the Secret Policeman's shows, to be involved in a small way. And I came up with the idea of them maybe making little guest appearances on videotape to apologise and explain why they weren't there, because they all felt they'd done it before. So they said, well, that would be great if you could do that. And I managed to go to folks like Michael Palin and Terry Jones and Eric Idle and see if they could lend a hand.
I'll tell you what, Martin, let's just pause and have a listen, because it is, as you might expect, it's quite a visual sketch. But here are some edited highlights, just to give you a flavour, Rod, of that Python humour.
Hello, I'm Michael Palin, the legendary sixth Python, you know, the dead lumberjack, the parrot who dresses up in women's clothing. Anyway, you know it's nothing more embarrassing than people trying to remind you of things. The real problem is I could have come, but I've broken both my legs. I was writing the other day, you know how you do, and suddenly, snap, both went, just like that. And so, obviously, I'm really sorry I won't be able to make it.
Hello, Eric Idle here, and I am the sixth Python. The sixth nicest Python. Look, the thing is, I would really give anything at all to be with you tonight in New York City to celebrate the 500th anniversary of Monty Python, of Amnesty International. But sadly, I do have a problem with my legs.
Hello, I'm Terry Jones, the real sixth Python, and I have something rather serious to communicate with you all. I'm not quite sure how to put this, but the other Pythons have been lying to you. None of them has broken his legs, nor lost them, nor undergone leg implant surgery, if such a thing exists. These are barefaced lies, told in order to exculpate the Pythons from failing to attend this evening's celebrations of Amnesty International's 50th anniversary here at legendary New York's legendary Radio City Music Hall.
And so it went on, and that's how it was played out at the legendary Radio City Music Hall. How did it go down?
It went down very well. They were not, obviously here you've just bunched them all together to give folks a flavour, but at the show there was a 3-hour show, and they just dotted them in amongst every sort of like 25 minutes or so you'd get another Python. And each time, of course, they took this, it was Michael Palin who came up with the idea that he would claim his legs had been confiscated and lost, and then each of the other Pythons built on that, so it became a running joke. And it went down very, very well in the show, and afterwards they had a lovely party afterwards, and I was chatting to some of the folks, especially the people from Saturday Night Live and some of the other American comedians, and it was very gratifying to know how they had grown up watching the original Secret Policeman's Ball shows, attracted to it first of all because it was Monty Python members, but then understanding and getting to support Amnesty International. And it was really great to find that it didn't just resonate with the audience, but with other future comedians, and they got their inspiration, and then when the time came for them to support Amnesty in its human rights work, they came on board. So that was very gratifying to follow that.
Marvellous. Well done, Martin. What's all this about Robert De Niro?
Well, I was watching the show in the audience. It's very frustrating. When you've been a producer of shows, you actually really want to be backstage and working with the cast. But I was sitting in the audience, and they'd given me a very nice seat, and I was watching the show, and it went down very well. I thought they'd put on a good show. But a couple of thoughts occurred to me. One, I knew that we were going to have to make a DVD of the show. They were doing a TV broadcast and so on, but I knew that for DVD it's always good to have a little bit of an extra, something that you haven't seen on the TV show. And my mind flashed back to something we'd done 30 years ago at the Secret Policeman's Other Ball. The movie of that, we came up with a little idea for a little end piece where Michael Palin appeared and interrupted the end credits and said, "Stop those credits!" And he used that as a device to promote all the merchandise, the VHSs. There's an ancient thing for you, and the LPs, all the products that were coming from it. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny that when we put together the DVD of this year's show, if we could come up with something a little bit like that, something that would interrupt the end credits and just be an extra that was not seen by the TV audience. And if I can be brutally honest, there was also a little part of me, the ancient, elderly, 98-year-old producer, thinking, gosh, I think I can come up with something that's quite funny to add to this show. So the next day, I had this little thought, well, we've got this running joke of the members of Monty Python all complaining that and explaining that they can't be there because their legs have been confiscated and stolen and lost. And I thought, we need a payoff to that gag. What could we do? And suddenly this idea came, wouldn't it be funny if there was some kind of version of a low-rent home shopping network, one of those dreadful abominations of popular culture, with somebody selling off celebrity body parts. Now, if they were doing that, then they could be selling the Monty Python legs, and that would explain why the Python's legs had disappeared. So I phoned up Michael Palin and Terry Jones and mentioned the idea, a bit of trepidation, they might not like it, but they loved the idea, and they said, terrific, your job, Martin, is one, to write the first draft. We'll do a polish and we'll work on it, but you must write the first draft, and secondly, you must get a star to play in this piece. Well, of course, they were sort of setting me a Gordian task or whatever, a tough one to do. But I realised that the way to do this, you had to have a big star. It's no point just having somebody like Simon Cowell who'll show up for anything. I mean, you need, or Piers Morgan, you had to have a really big star so that it would be, A, funny that on a cheap shopping network they would have a mega star selling products, and also so that we could show that Amnesty International had the support of a big star.
So you're going to say next you picked up the phone and called Robert De Niro?
Well, yes, I suppose I did do that. Yes,
you would.
It was a crazy thing. I thought, well, what's the worst thing that Robert De Niro could say to me? And so many people have said the worst thing that he could say to me that I thought, what the hell? Why not try that? And I've encountered him a few times on projects in the past, and I thought, maybe if I entice him and say that you could become a lifelong honorary member of Monty Python or something like that. So I pitched him the idea, and much to my surprise, he said yes. Which then put me in a terrible position, because then I had to go back to Michael Palin and said, my gosh, we've got to have the script ready. And then I sort of wrote a draft, sent it to Mike, and we went back and forth on that.
So let's just have a listen. And of course, there's an extra voice in this that we hear. And just give us a little explanation as to what you're doing in this.
Well, Michael Palin wrote the part in the skit, after he got my skit version of it. He wrote a part for a hustling producer who is pushing Robert De Niro to do things against his better judgment and cast against type. One of the Pythons suggested that I should play the part.
All right, let's have a listen with you as the hustling producer, and the first voice that we hear is of course, Mr. De Niro.
Embarrassed at dinner parties, caught short on the red carpet? Not anymore. Though we won a portable toilet for those who like to live in the fast lane. Now only $3 each. Can I go home now?
Python legs.
But you said Tom Hanks was going to do that.
Yeah, but he's doing a movie.
Well,
we'll pay you extra.
how much?
Well, $50 and 3%.
How much?
Well, gross.
How much gross?
Well, 3.5%.
Hi, I'm Robert De Niro. You buying from me? Have we got something special for you today? Now, for the first time on any shopping channel, apart from one or two...
There he goes with his hard sell. Easily bought, as it seems.
Indeed, and we also managed to get some other folks. I called up Whoopi Goldberg and Annette O'Toole, who's in that show Smallville, and Kira Sedgwick, and they came along and did cameos with De Niro. I mean, who doesn't want to work with Bob De Niro? Michael Palin says he's going to give up doing all those geography things now. He's simply just going to keep writing scripts for Robert De Niro.
Did he do it really well? Did you have to do a lot of takes with him?
We did very few. It took him a couple of moments to get right. But the thing that threw me, actually, was that he improvised. We had the script there, and by the way, I should say that, 95% of the funny stuff was Michael Palin stuff. A few of my lines were left in there, but Mike's lines are in there. But De Niro then, and the part that I was supposed to interact with him, he went off script, and I'd been sitting there rather intently looking at my script, and I suddenly realised he was throwing me a line that wasn't in the script, so I was thrown in the deep end. This is my first time acting, and had to act with him. But he was tremendous fun. He's been a big supporter of Amnesty over the years. And, the first thing is like, what do you call him? Is it Mr. De Niro? No, it's Bob. Please call me Bob. But the whole thing has worked out amazingly well. The DVD has just come out in Britain. It's just called The Secret Policeman's Ball 2012. By the way, the history of all these shows and all the wonderful work they do for Amnesty International and human rights is on a website, www.secretpoliceman'sball.com. Easy enough. And that's where all the history of the shows and all the amazing human rights work is listed there.
And tell me this, there you both are in Hollywood, the heart of celebrity country. Is Hollywood a bit like London when it comes to Christmas parties? Do people like to get their Christmas parties out of the way early so they can disappear off to their villa in Lanzarote or wherever the heck they go?
It is a little bit like that. It is something of a ghost town almost, isn't it? Hollywood at Christmas, people do have those parties early and then off they go out of state. They go skiing, I think, anywhere but Hollywood.
Well, they go off to Aspen. Rod, I won't pretend it's not hard here because sometimes the temperature dips below 85 at this time of year. We do have a little bit of polystyrene snow out occasionally, but it's very, very difficult to enter into the Dickensian spirit in this town. We do our best, but it's a struggle really to make it really a Yuletide in the British sense.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, of course, you just have to put on the act, don't you? There are actually Dickens Weekends for people to go to and get thoroughly into this kind of very, very strange and very, I would have thought, un-California mood.
Well, the expats do gather around in British pubs in Los Angeles and sit around doing impressions of Morecambe and Wise. That's pretty much the way that the British Christmas in Hollywood goes.
That's rather fun. And do you import anything special? In these days, do people miss anything at all, or is everything you could possibly want actually available from some store or on some internet connection or other?
Probably you can't get a decent Christmas pudding here, though, can you?
You can't get a decent Christmas pudding, but the strange thing is the American customs don't allow you to import food. Now, I was in London just last week, and I do smuggle back a Christmas pud, some mince pies, and certain things, and you have to wrap them in foil in case the sniffer dogs, that they're there for the cocaine, the sniffer dogs might sniff out that you've got a Christmas pud, and they have to be very careful about that. And the best way to get it through, just the tip, is you wrap it up and put so Happy Christmas, Mum, and then people think it wasn't you that put it in your suitcase.
Such useful advice. Martin Lewis there with Peter Bowes. Great pleasure to have you both there, and good luck with the Secret Policeman's Ball anniversary DVD.